Pewter casting is one of the easiest hands-on demos that we do in the SCA, especially for trying something with someone who is new. The startup cost can actually be relatively low. Pewter itself runs about $20 a pound, but there's still a lot of clearly marked lead-free pewter goods at thrift stores that can be melted down and used. The nice part about pewter is that it melts at approximately 400 to 550 degrees, which means you can do it on a stovetop burner. My typical setup is a single burner and a cast iron pan that, just regular burner that plugs into the wall, put it on high, put the cast iron on, and slowly it will meet pewter. I'm currently trying out a new melting pot, pewter pot, that allows me to melt here with an electric cord. It keeps the metal hotter as it pours. This was made for lead, but I'm trying it out for pewter. So the biggest problem that we run into with teaching casting is what you're going to pour the pewter into. Typically, the traditional method was carving soapstone or plaster. These molds require you to be able to carve in reverse, so that what you cast is going to be the opposite. You're carving in negative. And you still need to get the soapstone slabs, possibly two-part molds depending on how you're doing it, and somebody has to sit and carve, which can be a long enough time frame that you lose the people you are trying to talk to. So the other option, which is a quick option, is something called Delft clay. This is a reusable clay that you can cast impressions in. The problem with Delft clay is most of the time it's not available local. It is something you have to order, and it is quite expensive. It also gets everywhere. It dyes hands, it'll dye clothing. While it produces a really nice cast, it is not always the cheapest, easiest option. So today we're actually going to experiment with something else that a lot more people have on hand, especially if they've got kids. And it's a lot easier to buy than Delft clay. Kinetic sand. Kinetic sand is a product, it was really popular about a year or two ago. It has a lot of the same properties of the Delft clay, as in you can make a hard shape, but it comes apart the moment you start playing with it. And I am certain it's not expected to be used for this, but I found that you can cast in it. So, and it's easier to clean up than the Delft clay, especially when you start casting with it. I haven't tried it in a mold base, but most of the time when you're doing a demo, you're not going to be doing a mold base. You're going to be casting a one-part mold, which means you're just going to make a divot essentially in the sand, and you're going to have them press something in, and you're going to pour the pewter and see what happens. I'm going to make 2 patties. These are 2 of the small 8-ounce boxes of kinetic sand. If I had been more patient, I probably could have ordered on Amazon, a pound or something, but this is what I had locally. So I wanted to start with what was easy for me to go out and get. I want mine to have a smooth surface before I put my impression in, so I'm just going to use a piece of leather here, and I'm going to press it. Now, I'm working on a metal table because I am going to be pouring stuff that's hot, and I'm trying to keep the dough fairly thick because it will absorb the heat from the pewter, which I said is close to 500 degrees or more. Different alloys do different things. So the first thing I'm going to try is this is a clear stamp like you use for scrapbooking. A lot of them are made clear these days and they just stick onto other plastics. So I just cut a piece of plastic to use as a handle for the clear stamp. And I'm going to put an impression of it into this one. You don't have to press hard, just enough to get a good impression. It's good enough to try. The other thing I'm going to try is, this is a cookie cutter, a cookie press. I don't know, I don't bake. This is of a snowflake, which is kind of nice because one of our local groups, part of their symbols is the snowflake. So it's a nice commercial version of what they're doing. And this one, I'm going to press in. Try to keep that. I've not done this one yet, so we'll see how it works. Try to stamp the design. All right, so at least right now we've got base designs in there. Neither of them are perfect, but we're going to give it a shot. So this is hot, and we're going to pour. And we're going to pour. And now this is the part where the metal takes time to cool. It stays molten for a while, so don't touch it until it has changed color. So we've let these cool a little bit, and I'm going to break them open. The griffin I originally did blew out on the side, so I did do a replacement one just so I could show you what it looks like when it comes out of here. I'm going to pop these open. Like I said, it comes out of the clay really easily, as you can see, and this might still be hot. Since I'm rushing this, I'm going to put my heat gloves on so I can get this unmolded faster. It is still a little warm to the touch. This is a good thing to kind of let it sit and chat with people while you get the clay out. The sand removes actually quite easily, even compared to how the clay removes. The nice part about with this, especially if you're using something like a cookie mold or a stamp, if you've got enough clay, you can make multiples at the same time. You know, especially if you were going to use them as site tokens or badges or something that you're letting people take away with them. You can have, you know, you can stamp a section of 10 or 12 at once, and they will, you know, cool in succession, and you can mass produce because you're not using a single soapstone mold. Use a variety of things. These are the same tools I used for the Delft clay, but I'm just going to use them to pull out here. And as you can see, we got a pretty deep cast out of this. I'm going to try the snowflake again at the end of this video to see if I can do it slightly differently with the depth of the cookie press. I think I could have done it a better way. And the nice part about this is this all just becomes a clump over here, and as you can see, it's not really even sticking to my glove. The griffin was done out of the stamp. This is a clear stamp that you use for scrapbooking or something. So I got a really nice impression. Now, it's chunky because it's a one-part mold. You probably could have poured it thinner than I did, but I was just pouring and seeing what happens. My hand control is not great, but it makes a really nice little piece. And again, it's pewter, so if you don't like how it turned out, you throw it back into the pot and you try again. You want it as clean as possible. As you can see, I've got to still have some kinetic sand in here, but some of that will just be skimmed off the top. So I'm just going to pop that piece right back in. Pretty happy with the griffin. I'm going to do a couple more snowflakes and probably a star or two, something a little bit smaller. See if I can increase my hand control so that I have a better demo for you guys. But I think the kinetic sand at this point is a really nice alternative for teaching the pewter casting without having to invest in the Delft clay. There's a really good chance some of your parents or group members already just have this stuff laying around. It's easy to keep track of. It's cheap. So if something happens, you're not out a lot. But it clearly works as a sand casting medium. Thanks for watching.